Go.
Good morning. It's Jim with Becky behind the camera. We are With It Retirees in Beaverton, Oregon. Well, it's a rainy, horrible day outside, and so we're inside, and we thought we'd film. We've started doing some stuff with the fish tanks, and so we're going to talk a little bit. I started setting this tank up because I wanted to have an overflow for some shrimp that I have growing in a tank upstairs, which I'll probably show you in another video, but that's its purpose, was to be a shrimp tank. So while I was doing it, and while I am doing it, I got to thinking, what would be the kind of tank I would want to be told if I was looking for a tank and I've never seen one before and I wanted advice from someone? What advice would I think was good? How would I set up my first tank? What would it look like? So that got me going around and looking at tank sizes and metric and US gallons and so on. So I set the criteria that I would want, or let's say you are a working class person, you have some money but not a lot, and you have a new apartment or a house or a place and you have a space, and you think you might want to have a fish tank. So the first thing is a space. Don't need much space, this much maybe. And we'll talk, then go from there. So here's the criteria I set that would make you maybe successful, I think. And this is very opinionated, by the way, so there are many people who will think I'm wrong. First of all, the tank's gotta look good. You know, you want your tank to be somewhere where people are gonna see it. You don't wanna have to put a sheet over it when people come to see you. So you want your tank to look good. Just because it's going to make you feel good. If somebody comes in the room and they see your fish tank and they say, "Oh, that's nice," that will make you feel real good. Now let's get on to step number 2. This tank that you have, it's got to be light enough that you can move it around. I trust me, this is a really, really important aspect of the whole thing. My definition of light enough is that you could go to the store, buy the tank, load it in the back seat of your car, drive home, and carry that tank up a flight of stairs, set it on the counter, and not feel like you were in danger doing that. That's kind of light enough. So you can take it from there. And let's go the opposite way. It's got to be big enough that, let's say, you can have a school of fish, a dozen little fish, not big fish. We're not talking big fish at all in this scenario. Maybe some bottom fish and some shrimps, of course, and a nice little menagerie of fish that they don't ram into each other. They have room to swim. Plus a big enough visual screen so when people see it, that they can see it from a reasonable distance. Now the final thing is it should be big enough and tall enough that it's capable of housing multiple species of plants and hardscape, because you're going to want to aquascape it if you want it to look nice. So that's the last requirement for me. So let's go from there to here, and we'll start with the first tank I brought today. This is a cube tank. It's roughly a foot by a foot by a foot. This is metric, and it's roughly 7 gallons. Some people would think this was a good starter tank. This is a good tank. It would be a good beta tank, but it's not a good standalone tank, in my opinion. I think you need another bigger fish tank somewhere to support it. So if you need to change plants or creatures in here, you can do so. So it's a good tank, but we're going to take it off the list because it's just too small for our purposes. Now we're going to go to this tank, the one I just set up. This again is the same, roughly American would be 10 gallon metric. This is a 45P, about 9 gallons. I aquascape, if you call this aquascape in my version, I put this together a couple times and I found it oddly kind of constricted You can get everything you need in this tank, but to me, still not big enough. So let's go on to the other side over here, to what I think is big enough. We're gonna show, this is my new workbench. Nothing like having benches around, or tables. So anyhow, this footprint here is roughly 1 foot by 2 foot. And this is a very important footprint because there's a whole bunch of tanks that are like this. This particular tank is a 60p ADA tank, holds about 17 gallons. So to show you how it works, if it was, it's about 14.5 inches tall. If it was 12 inches, 2 inches shorter, it would be a 15-gallon US gallon tank. So there's no reason to have that, because why lose that space? You've got the same footprint anyhow. And you want to have height for your plants and for for aquascaping. So this tank again is 14 inches tall. This is a 60p. If it was 1.5 inches taller, 16 inches tall, it would be a 20-gallon high US, which is an important one to remember, because if money is any option, that's probably your best way to go, is a US 20-gallon high, which would be 16 inches high, a foot by 2 feet. There is one more tank higher yet, like I have upstairs, which is another 4 inches higher than this. It's 18 inches high, which is a 60H ADA, holds a little over 20 gallons. I find that height a little more difficult to aquascape because you can't get in there. If you happen to be 6 feet tall with long, or however tall with really long arms, you might choose that tank. They're also a lot more expensive. So anyhow, for our purposes, this is an ideal tank for a beginner. It has a whole lot of different options and a whole bunch of different ways. You can set it up with lily pipes on the outside and a canister filter and run CO2 and make an incredible garden of plants, or you can use low tech like I'm using now. It's just an easy way, a nice way to go. In fact, it's such a good way to go that I decided that that one over there is too small. And I'm going to take that one down and bring this one up. And I will take you along for the ride in the next, I think, a couple of videos we film. I'm going to basically rob the stuff out of this tank, empty it out, and show you just how easy it is to empty out a small tank. And again, we'll put it all in here and we'll aquascape it, and we'll get this one up and running, and we will place it right there. I think it'll be better for us, and then that one will be back in storage. So anyhow, that's what I got for today. In the next version of this, we'll talk a little bit about maybe aquascaping this a little bit and what to put in it. That's all I have for now. We'll see you next time.